Well, it's news. I got to talk about it. So, warning, trigger warning, content warning, editorial. This is my opinion, blah, blah, blah. All the things I need to say. And I'm sure by posting this, I'm going to piss someone off, but it is a story that's near and dear to my heart. So, once again, it's time. It's time. It's time to spin. Ding! The wheel of completely irrelevant tabletop role-playing game controversies. And this week it's the Dungeons and Dragons racist past. Remember, unless you started playing 5th edition, you're a racist. If you play any other version of D&D besides the one these people play, you're a horrible human being who loves zombies, eats babies, and kicks kittens. That's right. Yes, Professor Connie Chung has dug herself out of mediocrity yet again because I guess she felt Mackenzie was getting too much negative attention. So she's come forward and been interviewed by Polygon about her new show, Transplaner RPG, and the openness and acceptance and all the things she hates about D&D. And in this article, both she and Polygon regurgitate the now nonsensical and completely false story about the racism, sexism, homophobia, and lack of inclusiveness in the history of the tabletop role-playing game. That's right. For the past 50 years, all over the planet and in space, because remember they played D&D on the space station, everybody who's played D&D before these people were horrible, awful racists, were horrible, awful homophobics, horrible, awful. Just you, again, if you play D&D before 5th edition, there was no inclusions, there was no acceptance. You were a racist. It's a racist game. All the millions of people who played hundreds of thousands of role-playing games all across the world and in space for the past 50 years, you are an awful person unless you play the way Connie Chung plays. Now, Connie Chung's big thing, of course, is that she is against the capitalism of Dungeons and Dragons and the tabletop role-playing game community. She is totally against the cultural appropriation and the cultural identity and the cultural discrimination that in Dungeons and Dragons. Because one race, say the sandwich people, has certain bonuses, while a different race, say the carrot people, have a completely separate set of bonuses. That is racist. That is saying that for some reason one race is either superior or inferior than another race, and she's against that. She's also totally against the Orientalism and the colonialism of the 50-year-long hobby, that every single solitary role-playing game steals from her Oriental culture and steals from the idea of medieval Europe coming over and colonizing everything. So that is her thing. And she comes out as the champion of inclusiveness, of champion of diversity, the shining light, who's against everything Wizards of the Coast stands for, who's against everything the OSR stands for, who is against everything people like me stand for. Now, friends, I have never shied away from the fact that I am LGBTQT. I have been openly, for over 15 years now, telling people, yeah, I'm asexual. I'm proud of it. I'm happy with where I am. You know, my disability, whatever. And I can tell you, at least from my personal experience of the 48 years of this, playing all up and down California, playing D&D and all over the world, reaching hundreds of people, D&D, up until recently, has been the one place I felt safe. The tabletop role-playing game community was the one place I felt safe. It was the one community that didn't care who I was. It didn't care who you were. I don't care. Fat, thin, black, white, male, female, non-binary, binary, transgender. If you identify as a sheep, I don't care. We're just here to play a game. That was it. It was the most inclusive, multi-diversity, society I was ever in. I've met rich people. I've met poor people. I've met homeless people. I've met criminals. I've met actors. I've gamed with a porn star. Yeah, just inclusiveness was always there. The multiple diversity always there. And these references that people keep making about how the game was this or had this never existed. Never once has that come up in a conversation until people like Connie Chung came forward. And Connie Chung and this article would have you believe that while they're doing all these great things about bringing transgender and inclusion, diversity, and fighting against these things that she claims that she is against with her Transplaner RPG that she's created is completely different. And she does things that nobody else does. Like she made in a D&D party cry, or, she's one of those people who claims she's the best DM in the world kind of things. She's very high on herself. Now let's just go down the list, shall we, of things Miss Connie Chung claims, or Mr. Connie Chung, or they, or whatever it is you want to identify, that have been proven completely incorrect and her own personal bullshit. Okay, so her number one thing, right, is she is against basically Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast. The capitalism, the racism, the colonization, the Orientalism. She has this dream of creating a tabletop role-playing game campaign, the one she's running currently, that has no Orientalism, has no colonizationism, has none of the tropes. Oh, Steve's bringing me a toy. Thank you. It's so cute. You guys want to see Steve? We haven't seen Steve in a while. Hold on. Steve, break. Where is he? He just brought me a toy. Say hi, Steve. Here he goes. It means he wants me to get off the thing and play D&D. Okay. So first, despite the fact that hundreds of people far smarter than me, oh my God, you're seeing in my face. Well, might as well leave it on. Hundreds of people far smarter than me have disproven, including scientists, historians, other people in multiple walks of educational life, all of whom smarter than me have categorically disproven the claims about the racism. And multiple people from multiple races, classes, whatever, have said, no, I never felt that in D&D. In fact, it's the one place I felt seen. It's the one place where I felt not segregated, not discriminated against. The Dungeons and Dragons community that I grew up in was totally embracing people, because they didn't care who you were. They just wanted to play stupid elf game. So that's her thing, is that, the D&D and Wizards of the Coast does that. And her game has none of that. Elves get +2 to dexterity. Well, she doesn't have that in her game because she wants every race to be equal. Mind you, all the player characters in her game are half tiefling, half drow, whatever, and they're taking all the advantages from those multiple races. But what she doesn't have but of course, if you look at her, and she even talks about this in her interview when she's talking about her world and how open and accepting is she has multiple cultures who are different from each other. And if you're from that culture, you get certain bonuses. But if you're from this culture, you get another group of bonuses. So that's the exact same thing she says she doesn't have in her game and hates about D&D. Okay? She's against the inherent racism that certain races are better than other races in D&D. But she has the exact same thing in her game. And if she was against that, why is every single solitary player character in her game half tiefling, half something else? Isn't that the exact thing she's against? Second, I'm against colonialism and I'm against Orientalism. But she openly admits she is playing a Oriental Asian themed game inspired by JRPGs and anime and other things she grew up with, and she has multiple cultures and multiple colonies and multiple things. Basically, her game is a typical D&D multicultural world with all the things she claims she hates. Who's beeping me? So yeah. Her claims of racism have been disproven. All the things she says she hates exist in her game, and she openly admits it. She's against colonization and colonialism, but if you listen to her description of her world, it's literally Earth. She has an Italy. She has a France. And if you're from Connie Chang point A, you get certain bonuses and certain minuses. And if you're from Connie Chang B, you get certain bonuses and certain minuses. And if she was totally against racism, sexism, identifying things, then she wouldn't have an entire party of half tieflings, half something else. They would all be the same thing because those things don't exist in her game, right? Everybody's the same. We don't have any one race or gender that's better than any other race or gender. We're all just green globs of goo who can identify as whatever we want. If you want to identify as a half tiefling, half chair, you can in my world, because it's all about that. You're just a green gob of glue. Identify as whatever. You're a table. You're a boy who likes girls. You're a girl who likes girl. You're a girl who likes chairs. It doesn't matter, right? Isn't that what your game should be, Connie? But it's not. It's not. Your game is exactly what you fight against. Second, she hates the capitalism of Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast, who has given her hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past several years to be a consultant for them, she'll gladly take the money and then she'll badmouth them. Wizards of the Coast, who invited her, all expense paid, to go to the thing in Seattle at the beginning of the year, where she then hijacked a conversation that she wasn't even supposed to be a part of, turning a 20-minute, hey, this is what's coming up with the VTT, into an hour-and-a-half long triade about all the things she hates about Wizards of the Coast and D&D. Wizards of the Coast, who invited her and paid for her to go there, she proceeded to the point where she had to be escorted out, bad-mouthing Wizards of the Coast. Again, Connie Chang in this article, again, talking about how she hates people like me, how she hates the mentality of old gamers, how she hates the mentality of Wizards of the Coast fans, of D&D players. 5e players, she hates you too. If you look at her logic, she hates you as much as she hates me. She basically hates anybody that doesn't play at her table, play her way. If you do not look at the world through the Connie Chang kaleidoscope, you are a horrible, awful human being that loves zombies, eats babies, and kicks kittens. Steve is trying to kill the couch. Yes, you get that couch, Steve. You show it who's boss. Yeah, I love it when he brings me toys. It means he wants me to play. Stop doing what you're doing, Dad, and notice me. It's usually that what it is. All right. So yeah, she'll hate them, but she'll take the money. In fact, right before I watched the video, this one right here, where she's doing all the things she's doing, there was an ad for Connie Chung telling you about how great Roll20 is. And she openly admits she was shilling for money. She's like, this is the stupid part of the show where I shill for money by talking about Roll20. Well, if you don't appreciate the Roll20 money, Connie, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? If you're so against the mentality of Wizards of the Coast, why take their money? If you're so against the mentality of Roll20, of D&D Beyond, of the capitalism, why would you take the thing? And this whole thing about, well, she made a group of players cry that's never been happened before. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'm sure, whatever. She brings players together the way nobody else can. That, these players have all felt not welcome at any other table, but they feel welcome at her table. Do you ever think for a second, you presumptuous hypocrite, that some of this lies on you? I mean, I have reached a point in my life where I am willing to admit 50 to 80% of the fuck ups in my life I'm responsible for. And for every relationship that I've been in that has ended up badly, I hold some responsibility because I am a human being and I accept the fact that that's the way the real world works. Okay. So if these people feel these things and Connie Chang feels these things, does she ever at any point in time consider she might have some share in the responsibility of the reality she's created? As Dice Tale says right here, how does she know how I as an old player think or game? How do you presume my style? I don't presume your gender. Okay, so again, that's her thing. That's her thing, and the thing likes her. Her and Mackenzie are all in the same voice. I am an Oriental. I love the way all these progressive anti-capitalist types still are willing to take the money. Exactly. I hate you, Wizards of the Coast, but I'll take your money. I hate everything about D&D, but I'll run a show that's basically D&D, and I'll copy and paste everything that D&D into my world. I'll just change the names. And oh yeah, you can be a half tiefling, half whatever, because that gives you the most. You're telling me these people did not pick these specific character builds because under the mechanics of 5e, it gave them the best advantages and disadvantages and best mechanics of the game. That's 80% BS. That's 80% BS. Every single solitary person that she knows identifies as a tiefling who's also half something else. Well, I'm demonized because I'm gay, so that's why I identify with a tiefling, because they're demons. No, they're not demons. And two, I've never met a single gay person who's like, yeah, I identify as a demon because I'm demonized. No, most of them are like, fuck those people for demonizing me. I'm a wonderful person. I know I grew up with drag queens. I worked with a drag queen for 12 years. And I'm sure that individual would hate this kind of stuff. I, as an openly LGBTQT, I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted that people like me, the old school, has spent so many years fighting against the you're a fucking nerd mentality, to make D&D acceptable, when we were playing in the library and getting beaten up and all that other shit. And it was the one place everybody who loved what we loved could feel safe. You love anime? Come on in. You love Lord of the Rings? Come on in. You love weird alternative music? Come on in. You can't eat gluten? Come on in. You're even slightly curious about the game? Let me show you how to play. I don't fucking care who you are. Now she's like, well, that never existed, and we're all horrible. If you haven't played D&D the way Connie Chung plays D&D, you are a horrible person who loves zombies, eats babies, and kicks kittens. Mind you, all the things she says she hates exists in her game. And you're telling me all these players chose these characters, specific builds, not because of the bonuses and minuses and advantages and disadvantages playing these specific builds give them and towards the mechanics of the game, but because it's how they felt they were represented. This is the way I see myself. No, it's tabletop role-playing game. If you do this, it's because you're trying to get specific bonuses and minuses. We all do it. You're trying to go for a specific build and a specific look. Otherwise, you would all just be playing gelatinous slime. So yeah, she's a hypocrite. And I guess she did this article because she felt she hadn't done anything noticeable in a bit. We were all jumping on Mackenzie for a couple of days, but now Mackenzie has sort of disappeared. If you read all the articles about the new Deck of Many Things books, it's the same quote that they've been using since she first appeared. And she's hardly mentioned at all. The other creator is mentioned throughout most of the articles for Deck of Many Things. And if you read the majority of it, it's not Mackenzie, it's the other dude. Or Dudette. I don't know. I think the last name's Trobe. I can't be bothered to check, but I know it starts with a T. But anyways, yeah, it's hello, John. Welcome. Like, share, subscribe, buy my merch. Yes, they are. It's very hard as a democratic leftist, openly gay, LGBTQT, asexual, disabled person who wants the acceptance and inclusion at the D&D table and wants to be, these things that these people claim they want. But then reading the things these people say disgusts me so much. It's like I am more on the side of the conservatives than I am on the liberals, because as a liberal who has fought for gay rights, who has fought for disabled rights, who has fought for inclusion, you disgust me. It's a sanctuary. Okay? It has always been a sanctuary. So saying this has never happened until now is bullshit. Did you ever see a table of Vampire the Masquerade players in the late 80s? That was the most open, accepting table of people you would consider freaks ever. And they're just like, I don't care. I know plenty of people who are able to address their sexuality thanks to role-playing, who are able to address their sexuality thanks to Vampire, who are able to work through their issues partially because of D&D, because D&D was there and gave them a safe space, and you're saying it's never safe. So that's your biggest bullshit, Connie, of all the bullshit you sprout, is to claim you're the best, you're the only one, this didn't exist before you, and that you've done all these things, and none of these things exist in your table, and everything you claim you hate exists at your table. I don't have stat bonuses in my game. I have step bonuses in my game. My game is not based upon colonialism or Orientalism. I'm running an anime-themed, Asian-inspired game where all these different cultures get bonuses and minuses. I hate the capitalisms of Wizards of the Coast. By the way, Wizards of the Coast, thanks for inviting me and paying for me to come to your things. I fucking hate you, Roll20, but I'll take your money because I'm a hypocritic shill. And the thing is, there are people out there who will read this and follow this and be like, oh my God, everything she's saying is true. I feel that. And it's the satanic panic all over again, but worse. It's everything, all the things we have fought so hard to make the game, people just see it what it is, how is our game any different than fantasy football or whatever, We're a bunch of nerds who get together, maybe if we're lucky, once a month for 3 hours of playing stupid elf game. That's it. That's all it's ever been. Why feed more into it is there? Well, the abject racism. You know what? Nobody saw racism in the game until you people showed up. And I've gamed with plenty of people who could have said at the first chance, oh my God, that's racist. Never once did any of the POC people I played with over the years go, hey, you know what? That's racist. That's sexist. That's anti-Semitic. Oh my God. No, never. And I've played, now true, 80% of my playing is in California. Let's face it, California's pretty liberal. So I don't know, maybe my pie chart is a little restricted and prejudicial to, playing in Oregon, playing in Washington, playing in California, playing in New York, playing in England, playing on a boat, playing on a plane. I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not eat them, Sam I am. So I felt I had to talk about this, and I'm sure it'll get me a lot of hate, and people will go, well, if you don't like Connie Chang, you're exactly the things you claim. You're against OGGM. You're racist. You're sexist. You're homophobic. You're a horrible, awful person who loves zombies, eats babies, and kicks kittens because you don't agree with her. And fine. I mean, if I piss people off, that's fine. But I think of all the token soapboxes at this point in my life that I would choose or not choose to stand on, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of things that come from the wheel of irrelevance that I like. I don't want to talk about this, or I'm not going to go bad at this. I mean, there's things daily I see and like, I should say this, but I'm not going to. But this stuff, this Mackenzie Dam stuff, this Connie Chang stuff, this bullshit at the tail end of 2023, that they're still trying to push this politics that for the most part no longer exists and has been categorically proven by people far smarter than myself to be 100% incorrect. People have gone through the rules and said, no, that's not there. People who knew Gygax said, nope, that's not the way he was. In fact, there was just an article by Ed who said, yeah, you know what? Actually, Gary was pretty, quote unquote, woke by today's terms. Gary would have been considered woke. So, yeah, in closing, fuck you, Connie Chang, and fuck you, Polygon, for perpetrating this pointless hate, for continuing to try and make money off of a non-existent soapbox. It's not there. It never has been there. And people like you make the current state of the tabletop role-playing game community 100 times worse, because you make us feel shitty. And you go, wow, is that really the way you see me after all these years? Why did I spend all of January fighting to make sure you guys could still use the OGL and run your games your way and publish your games your way? Because that's what the OGL January bullshit was all about, right? Connie, if your blessed saints got their way, you wouldn't be able to do Transplaner RPG without paying them a significant portion of the money you claim you want. I'm dumber than I used to be. Oh, yeah. There's Cal. Welcome to the club. You could Harlem Monopoly. I mean, are you sure? I've seen some pretty obscure, weird monopolies. There are ones for like every state, every city. So are you sure there's not a Harlem Monopoly? I mean, I'd have to check, but I get your point. I get your point about Hasbro, blah, 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 or whatever. Oh, Hasbro hasn't done that, so they're racist. So yeah, I feel like I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, so I'm sorry if this upset anybody, but yeah, this is definitely a sour point for me, having grown up in the satanic panic, having grown up in the if you play D&D, you're a fucking nerd, getting beaten up, and knowing that the D&D table was the one place once every other week where I could be safe and I could be around people like myself, and was open and accepting and inclusive and non-discriminatory. Nobody cared. And for the past 40 some odd years, that's been my tabletop role-playing game delusion, because apparently all these things that Connie Chang claims to exist has been there the whole time. And I guess I just never saw them, Connie, or they never existed. And you're desperately hanging on to a fallacy to remain viable. Look at me. Look what I did. I am a virtue signaling beacon of hope here at my table where none of these things exist. Oh, by the way, everything I claim I hate exists in my game. And that's the worst part of your hypocrisy. You will gladly take the Wizards of the Coast money, the Roll20 money, while claiming you hate them. You have all the things in your game. You openly admit it, that you claim you hate about D&D. All the things you claim you hate about people like me and the way we play, the people we play, that never existed till you came along, exists in your game. You have in your game all the things you claim you hate about me and our game. So yeah, you're a hypocrite who's playing the victim, who's a narcissist, Professor Connie Chang. You're like 12 years old. What do you have a professor in? I'm a professor of cultural sensitivity. Well, for $100, I can be a professor of cultural sensitivity too. I just go online, take the 20-minute test, and pay the $100. I'm a certified minister who can conduct weddings. You know what that means? It means I spent $40 and took a 10-minute test to become a certified minister to conduct weddings. Your professorship means as much as my reverendship. You're a hypocrite. And Polygon, how awful of you, Polygon. You used to have some level of respect, but now I'm just done with you. I mean, were you just so desperate to get cheap? This is what we call in pro wrestling cheap heat. This is cheap heat. This is like, a heel in a specific city bad-mouthing that city's sports team because it knows it will get him a pop. This is literally what you're doing, Polygon and Connie Chang, is trying to keep yourself relevant as a virtue signaling star and to get cheap heat, which I guess you succeeded because I'm talking about you and other people are talking about you. So I guess you did get what you wanted. I suppose what I could have done is just not said anything, except this is one of the few soapboxes I will get on, even though by getting on it, I know I'm giving you exactly what you want. So I guess in the end, you won, Connie, because I gave you attention. And isn't that really what it was? You just wanted to get attention. And now you can go and say, oh, look at the horrible stuff this OGGM said about me. This proves I'm right. Thank you for your money, Wizards of the Coast. You suck. Thank you for your money, Roll20. You suck. Thank you for coming to my game where I have all the things I claim I hate in my game. And we're now going to cry. Oh, we're crying. Oh, and that's nobody has ever had an emotional catharsis at a tabletop role-playing game before mine. Nobody ever. In the 50 years of the history, all over the world, hundreds of thousands of role-playing games, millions of people playing. This is the first time ever in the history of the game there's been an emotional catharsis at the table. It's how good of a DM I, Connie Chung, am. Now, that's bullshit. Unless you can categorically prove to me, Connie, that that's never happened at any tabletop role-playing game before, that's bullshit. So yeah, I challenge you to go out and interview every single solitary person who has ever played the game to prove that you are the only person who first ever did any of these things. And these things have existed for 50 years and you're fighting against them. All the things you claim you're doing, which hypocritically, of course, you're doing because you're a money-grabbing shill, but you won't admit it. At least I admit I'm a shill. Fuck. support me, Roll20. I will sell out. Anyways, that's almost a half an hour of me talking about this subject. I'm sorry I went on so long. It obviously is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And as somebody who is just, God, I hope so. God, I hope so. Jesus Christ, there are people who are like hitting 2-3K who have been doing this far less than I have. What do I need to do to get you guys to sub? Huh? I show you the cat. That should be enough. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for sticking with me for this triad. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially Cal, one of my oldest subscribers. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 2,000 subs by the end of the year so I can beat Aaron the Pendentic, because that's the whole reason why I wanted 2,000 subs, is so I could beat him. That stupid immortal gnome living in Texas and being so young and awesome. I love you, Aaron. And of course, don't forget that I, as a hopeless shill, I'm part of the Wretched role-playing game family. You know, the guys who got banned from drive-thru for being controversial. With the my two new products for the Wretched universe. The latest production for the Wretched Vigilantes is out. It's called Good Guys Always Lose. It's available for POD on Lulu for $18. And of course, my Wretched Insects for the ongoing monthly beastery that I've been doing features more nightmarish information about insects than you've probably ever wanted to know. So if you're ever curious about what the world's largest spider is and how close you live to it, yeah, check it out. It's only $2.50 and it's available on the Red Room. Links down below. That's 30 minutes of your time you probably could have spent eating a sandwich. So please like, please share, please subscribe. Please have a safe day. Connie Chung, please shut up. And above all, get out.